Hello YouTubbies and welcome to episode 6 of Game Idea Talk. Today we are going to revive a classic that is much older than any old school. This is a very short episode but also a very simplistic idea that is so overwhelmingly easy and basic that you will wonder why no one today considers using it. Today it is less about a certain game and a lot more about the concept behind it, as we will see in other episodes of this series. Today I present to you a game I call The History of Swarm Castle. The idea of this game is the following. Take a simple adventure game in 2D graphics, but take away the option to play it via mouse or controller. Only the keyboard is the key now. Yes, you heard right, the keyboard is the only input to this game. Does it sound old school enough to you? In times of augmented and virtual reality and voice-based input controls, we stick to the classics of type in your command to see what happens next. Naturally, this game involves adventure game elements. In The History of Swarm Castle, you are the figure that solves the riddle behind the seemingly cursed castle. The story itself is not important here, only the way we play via keyboard commands. Since you probably know what an adventure game is, we don't need to get into details on the fact that puzzle solving is a major element of such a game. There's no certain game that this idea would be based on, and adventure games overall, as well as the antics of video games that were indeed controlled by text inputs and multiple choices are what matters here. About the past, obviously at a time before we had graphics running over the screen and even without icons to signify an element, we needed the only thing we had with computers. Plain text on a screen, usually even in 2 colors, or even just one on the background. Now today that seems hilarious considering the graphical inputs of games today, moving to the seemingly realistic level. But it is like reading a book. Plain text can be fantastic and raises a creativity and fantasy within the reader. With the difference, in no book you are actually writing the story. Usually, that is. So what is new about this concept? Well, we do have graphics in 2D in this game, preferably hand-drawn by people that find a certain design pattern that fits the genre as well as the mysterious, perhaps even horror-like atmosphere of the game. Truly new, however, is the control concept. Only text inputs tells our character where to move, to whom to talk and how, and most importantly about what. You can already imagine the frustration level of players that have to learn that their character first needs to move out of a building, second move towards a character, third start talking to the character, and only then can ask about the topic. However, the topic is never ever given. You have to type in a "where is the key" to get an answer. Most likely an "key to what?" which leads to you answering "the key to the basement" and the character responding "what about the key, this key?" Until you recognize you should ask, where is the key to the basement? In other words, the player of today needs to learn how to ask specific questions and commands in a certain way that others can understand. A very social and linguistic skill that is almost educational and therefore a benefit to any player, especially students. Not to mention the possible humor in certain situations. I don't think we need to explain the concept of write something down anymore. Perhaps we need an in-game dictionary though, well, just to mention it. But who could build this? Well, today I'm going a little over the limit and say Electronic Arts. They know how to talk themselves out of situations like, why is every FIFA the same? So they need to know something about words. Stories are tougher to tell though, so I guess they could combine their resources with Daedalic and Beamdog, 2 studios familiar with well-written stories. What is left to say or ask? Can a game that is focused on the typing process really be immersive? Could a story written in a fantastic and motivating way be followed if we keep hanging at the text input process? Naturally, these issues need solving, yet there are options. But is it still an attractive concept to players? Naturally, adventure games fans are interested in stories, humor, situations and riddles. Why not adding the text concept to it? Personally, I can see an issue here that couldn't be overcome. All a matter of the game concept that clever developers should prepare carefully and follow through. Your take-home message of today? Think about if you would like to play such a game. Add in the comments below what you would add or change to the concept. Who else could develop it according to your ideas? How does the idea of only typing to control a character impact the game? Well, in a 2D adventure it shouldn't matter, but what other genres could that impact? Imagine a racing game with quick-time text input elements. Something like, turning left now! If you type the wrong thing, well, then you drive into a wall. Bad luck. And what we talk about next time? Stay tuned into Game Idea Talk and find out soon. Of course, I greet all the makers and ideas of the studios I mentioned in this episode. Keep working nicely and think about making more games that have one big purpose: making fun.